Well, welcome everyone. Azure Cosmos DB TV. How are you, everyone? Mark Brown here. I'm joined by Deborah, Chen, and Praful Johari from the team here. Hi, folks. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you both too. Yeah. So this year at Build, all these shows we've been talking about all the cool stuff we announced at Build, and we had another cool thing, very major announcement for us, and that is Azure Cosmos DB Fleet. And today, Deborah and Praful are going to talk about Azure Cosmos DB Fleet. And so let's get right into it. Deb, why don't we have you just kind of kick us off here, and let's hear about all the cool stuff we announced at Build this year.
Thank you so much, Mark. So I have a few slides just to set up the context of the problem that we're solving, but most of the session will be demos that will show the product that is now available for you to try out in preview. So what is Cosmos DB Fleets and why are we building this feature? So this feature is targeted toward customers who are building multi-tenant applications. Typically, these are integrated software vendors like ISVs or SaaS operators, software as a service operators. And the observation we've seen from years and years of customer feedback is that for these kinds of applications, ISV developers face a pretty harsh trade-off between having good isolation and performance for their end customers versus low cost per tenant. So examples of multi-tenant applications might be, say I'm building a digital marketing platform where my customers are companies who want to market to their end customers, or I might be building a content management service where my customers are using my CMS to deliver and host their content for their websites, right? So as the ISV or as a software provider, I want to make sure that each of my customers has a good end-to-end experience, but at the same time running the business, I want to make sure that's cost effective for me. Typically in Cosmos DB, when you're using the database to store the data, ISVs, these kinds of customers typically choose one of two design patterns. The first one is they'll make one database account per tenant or per end customer, which typically gives you good isolation and performance. Every customer's data is in their own Cosmos DB instance, and you provision dedicated throughput for each customer, so they all have their own dedicated performance knobs there. The cons of this are it can get more expensive to have so many dedicated RU knobs, and it's also hard to manage hundreds of thousands of accounts and databases. The other common pattern we see is that customers will put all of their customers' data in one container, typically partitioned by something like tenant ID or customer ID. This makes management a lot easier. You just have one throughput setting to consider, but now you don't get any guarantees against noisy neighbor, the dreaded noisy neighbor problem. All of the customers' data are sharing the same pool of throughput, and you're not able, as the software operator, to control things you would at the account level. Most importantly, the one we see most frequently is customer managed keys. Typically for these kinds of data platforms, customers want to be managing their own keys because they're storing sensitive data about their end customers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, just saying that makes sense. Like having customer managed keys, like they typically want to be able to allow their customers to encrypt their own data.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes total sense.
So what we want to do with Fleet is really make it possible not to get A or B, but to get A and B at the same time. What we want to do is make the one database account architecture viable for customers who are building these kinds of applications. So you'll get your good isolation and performance, but you will also get low cost per tenant. So this is the whole heart and soul of our fleet management product, which is now in preview as of Build or May earlier this year. We have three main pillars, but today we're just going to focus on two, which we released, and the third one you can stay tuned for upcoming roadmap. So the first thing that we've added as part of this new suite of tools under fleet management is the ability for you, in the first time ever, to share throughput across multiple Cosmos DB accounts from multiple subscriptions, different containers and different accounts under one fleet or one pool to make it so you can get better utilization of your throughput. Typically, ISVs have to either provision all of their customers at peak just in case they spike, which can get pretty expensive because not everyone, when you have thousands of customers, is spiking at exactly the same time. Or you might provision less to keep your costs down, but then the moment there is a spike that honestly is pretty hard to predict, your customers get throttled and you get 429 and then they have a bad experience and now they're upset with your product. So it's a really harsh trade-off there. What we're doing with pools is we're allowing you to share a dedicated, share a pool of throughput that can be used flexibly across anything in the fleet, which means you don't have to worry about provisioning throughput perfectly. We'll get more into details about how this works, but this makes it so that you can effectively get good cost performance even when you're doing database account per tenant architectures.
One thing I want to call out here is this is across subscription. So if ISVs are using subscription as tenant boundaries, not a problem here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
In addition to the pooling aspect, we also acknowledge that when you have tens of thousands of resources, clicking into the Azure Monitor portal to look at each one individually to triage even which of my 1,000 accounts has an issue is not really feasible. So we've also made some improvements in our monitoring story, including both the ability to see in real time monitor your fleet, as well as for those of you who need to do longer term historical analysis. Typically, we see these for like FinOps or kind of like cost management stakeholders to analyze the longer term performance and cost of your fleet. So we'll get a little bit into demo of that, but happy to do a deep dive on that later.
Okay.
All right. So just one more thing to share before we go into the demo. I just want to share a visual, if you like a visual person to see the hierarchy of what we're actually offering today, and then Praful will show the actual thing in the portal. So at a high level, we have a new resource called a Cosmos DB Fleet. You can find this under our resource provider, documentdb/fleets. It's a high-level entity where you can store groupings of accounts, where the groupings are called fleet spaces. So typically what we've seen with our customers is that one application, let's say the digital marketing platform or the content management service, is one fleet. And within the fleet, I have different classes or tiers of customers who maybe some of them have different performance and workload demands. I might have a free tier, or I might have an enterprise tier, or maybe something in the middle. So typically, customers will group their Cosmos DB accounts, which represent one tenant or end customer, and do fleet spaces. And fleet spaces are the boundary of where the RUs or the pool throughput can be shared. So within the fleet space, you can provision a pool of throughput, which will then be flexibly used by any of the accounts containers who need to use it. All right, so that's the visual hierarchy. I'll turn it over now to Praful, who will walk us through a fleet that's been set up and take us into a demo.
Okay, Praful, it's all you.
Cool. Thanks, Deborah and Mark. So yeah, let's move on to the demo. Let's deep dive into fleets and how it all works in practice. So let me first show you how to create a fleet, then create a fleet space after that, and we can go through all of that. So let's go through the fleet. Let me select the subscription. Let me select the subscription that I already have. And then I can select, let's say, one of my resource groups. So it's a standard Azure resource creation portal experience. So it's similar to others. We can also have, we can create one in our subscription. So let me have test fleet, and then some other identifier. I can select the east to west region. It also supports tags. So in case you want to apply tags to a resource similar to other Azure resources, you can do that as well. Let me say this is billing, and then so some random tag that I want to add. So monitor, and then I go ahead and click on review and create. This starts the process of creating the resource. Let me move over. So this deployment is in progress. So while this is in progress, let me move on to something that is already pre-created for the sake of this demo. So this fleet is organized and reflects how essentially ISVs organize their account. So essentially in a fleet, what we can have is a different classes of customers, and we can organize them in different groups based on what is expected from each of these groups of customers. So for example, one such grouping could be free tier customers in one group, commercial customers in one group, enterprise customers in one group. And what this grouping essentially enables everyone or all these accounts is to have a best possible experience and performance for these fleet spaces. So as you can see, these three fleet spaces, they differ in maximum RUs, they differ in a few other settings. So to get an idea of all of these settings, let me go through and explain like what kind of settings we have in the fleet spaces as well. So let's say similar to a fleet space, we can, similar to fleet, once we move there, we can create a fleet space from here. And then let's say it is fleet space, and we can enable choose to enable or not enable throughput pooling on that. Let's say I want to enable throughput pooling. We need to specify what all accounts and what all regions for the accounts can be in throughput pools. For example, we want to have accounts with East US and West US. So I would do East US, and then let's say, I think it's, yeah, it's West US. So I can create a throughput pool like this. And then general purpose and business critical. So general purpose essentially means that if the accounts that are added are single region, and business critical would be multi-region. And throughput pool min RUs and max RUs. So in mix, so for example, the values that we can provide, there's a wide range. We can provide custom values, for example, 100,000 and then 200,000.
So Praful, I see it looks like a few things. One is I see throughput pooling as an optional feature, which I can enable for the grouping. But I also see that I can have a custom min and max. Can you tell me more about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Deborah. So so as you know, we have this is a way for customers to have more flexibility. We allow customers to provide a wide range of values. So in the case of like default autoscale that we have, it's by default a 10x multiple of the minimum RUs. But with this functionality, we provide a wider range, and we provide customers that, hey, you can provide custom values, and this could be up to 10x of maximum minimum RUs.
Got it. So it looks like the pool is auto scale, just like in normal Cosmos DB, I'm build for what the pool scales to, which will be auto scale. But if I don't absolutely need that 10x scale range, I can set custom max values here.
That's right. Yeah.
And then this 200. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
The question was on the location. So you had locations where the throughput pools would be. Does this then limit the regions that you replicate, that the account would replicate into?
Yes. So this provides or a data region for the accounts that it can be present in, and the fleet space will essentially provide that information through the setting that, hey, only this kind of accounts can be added to this type of fleet space.
Right. So the throughput will be available. So one common question we get is like, can you share throughput across regions? The answer is no, as you might expect. Yeah. So you'll get your, let's say, 200,000 RUs of pool throughput in East US. So anything in East US will share that pool. There will be another 200,000 RUs of throughput in West US. Anything there will share. This is just saying, in order for an account to be added to the fleet space or the pool here, it has to have the same exact regional configuration. Okay. So, I mean, if I had an account with like only central US, like adding it to this pool is completely useless, right? So we're not even going to let you do that. But this is just saying, I expect all the accounts I'm going to add in here to have this regional configuration.
Got it. And then can you help me understand the general purpose versus business critical knob in here?
I can try to take this one. Okay, so we did, I think you're aware, we did rename / rebrand some of their the way we refer to our previously 100 RUs and 100 multi-master or multi-region right RUs very recently. So I think over time, this confusion will probably dissipate. But effectively, if you're using Cosmos DB in a setting where you have single right region, which is typically the most common offering, that maps to general purpose. If you're using Cosmos DB with the multi-write region, where every single region can accept writes, which is a bit less common, but typically will give you higher nines of 5 nines of write availability instead of just 4 across all the regions, then that is the business critical. So if you want to like sub replace the multi-region versus single region write, you can. But we've kind of renamed these to make it a bit easier to know. So it's not so feature based, but more of like, what do I actually need my workload to do?
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, then. Let me move on to creating or adding the accounts to the fleet space. Let me utilize an existing fleet space for that, just to show the process in a bit more smoother way. So if I select a fleet space, and then so the way it shows is that it shows the accounts that are already added to it. In case I want to add a few more accounts, I just need to select this. And it will provide me a list of the accounts that I can add. I can select multiple of them, and I can simply select add to fleet space, and this will add the accounts to the fleet space. So essentially, the list will be something like this. So let's check out some of the accounts that we have already added. Let me pick something. Let's see. Let's pick the enterprise customer 4. What we want to see here is a pre-created database and container. So, for example, for this this customer data container that we have already created, so we have the maximum RU set for as thousands. So because now it's a part of a fleet with throughput pooling enabled, it can use up to 3K RUs per partition from the pool on top of the dedicated 1K RUs mentioned here, for a total of 4K. This is really nice to have for customer scenarios where there's an unpredictable burst of activity on the database, but the customer still wants to handle all of this RUs nicely up to a limit. Okay.
Hey, Praful, just before you move on, just so I know so enterprise customer 4 is like, I'd say I have 100 customers, so this is just one of them. And then I've provisioned 1,000 RUs of throughput, which was always there for them. 1,000 RUs is a pretty small amount of throughput, but I'm provisioning some amount, and then you're saying pool is gonna give more potentially.
Yeah. Yes, we can actually look at this in practice. Let me go over to a custom workload that I've created just to see how all of it works in practice. So this is a workload that simply generates and writes some documents into the account that I've showed. So let's see. Let me see if I want to write some writes on the enterprise customer 4 account that I mentioned earlier. So as you can see here, this is a small workload app. What it does is it writes some docs and it shows the average throughput while it's writing there in the account that we have discussed earlier. So as you can see, the RU number is rising, and as we see here, it has risen above the 1K RU limit that we have shown earlier. So at this point, it's actually using the RUs from the pool. So this is a pretty good benefit.
Interesting.
So is this going to use the pool's RUs before it scales up? So if I go back, you had auto scale at 1,000, so it could scale up from there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So it actually utilizes the pool is in case it overshoots the 1,000 RUs. So it will start utilizing it then.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So that's the maximum RU in there. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you can kind of think of it as the pool is like the insurance policy where, let's say before a pool, you were just provisioned that 1,000 would probably be like a 10,000, right? Just in case they spiked.
Yeah.
But now you can provision a bit lower for your typical usage. And then if there is a spike, like this is all guaranteed, right? So these RUs are never going to be shared by any other like container, no other customer. So this is all enterprise customer 4's 1,000 RUs. right?
Yep. Okay. Got it.
Cool. Let's see how the generator is doing. We should be expecting around 4K. Okay, we actually got even more. So we've been bit generous on the pool, which is fine. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see that you didn't have to like, hey, jump in and try to scale up your container suddenly. The pool was there to cover it.
Yep. Yeah, this is great.
It provides at this time it provides 3K RUs per partition from the pool on top of the dedicated 1K RUs.
Okay. And then maybe Deb, we talk about this later, but on the monitoring. So let's just assume pool goes over and customers get throttled because one or more accounts is consuming too much from the pool there. I'm guessing there's a way to get alerts on this type of.
Yeah, Praful, do you want to show the monitoring and metrics that are available?
Well, when you're ready, I
Yep.
want to let
Yeah.
Praful.
Good segue.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's look at how all this looks from the monitoring and metrics point of view. So for the same account, let's see metrics, enterprise customer. Let's see total request units, and then I apply a splitting called as capacity type, which gives which provides this view of how many how many RUs I've been using previously, and then how many pool RUs I am also utilizing. So as we zoom into this graph, we see that hey, it utilizes the RUs from the pool as well as the dedicated RUs that are associated with it. Let's also take a look at the total requests themselves. So total requests and then same splitting. So as we can see, quite a few of these requests, if there was no pooling, then these would have been throttled and would have returned 4 to 9s without the pooling. But now, because of this spike in the workload, it's able to serve them nicely.
Makes sense. Yeah, so you're saying blue line is everything that I'm serving from my dedicated, that 1,000 I had provisioned, but everything in the pink line is coming from the pool. So that's like almost an extra 3.4 thousand requests that otherwise would have gotten problem.
Yeah, this is amazing. Let's also, Mark, go ahead.
No, just saying, I'm just commenting. This is really great. I love this.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's also take a look at this RU pattern of the accounts in terms of how they will look in the fleet space themselves. So let's see. I did run this query previously. So let's see how all of it looks. So let's say for a certain time period, you want to see how many. What's the RU split? How are all the accounts utilizing the RUs? In this fleet space. So you can simply run a log analytics query, for example, the one I'm doing here, and we can see the RU pattern over time. So as you can see, we have a few accounts in this pool, and all of them utilize, have their own different RU pattern, and all of them are consuming RU from the pools.
So I think in this one, you provision all the containers at the 1,000 RU, right? So that's like this, the minimum that, or kind of like the baseline of throughput they would have gotten. And then all the spikes that are above 1,000, the 2,000s, see one that's like almost close to 3,000s. So those are all being served by pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the nice thing here is like, if you looked at this and you didn't have pool, you'd probably conclude that you'd have to provision everybody at 3,000 RUs or maybe more, like just in case they all spiked, right? But because pool can cover that buffer, and look, everyone's not spiking at the same time, right? Which is pretty typical in these multi-tenant workloads. What you can do instead is, instead of having to try to like manage everyone's throughput individually, just have one pool. You might be provisioning like 100,000 RUs a pool. I think this example, 10 is a pretty small number just to keep it tractable, but typically you'll want to have at least like 100 containers or customers for this the scale to work out for this.
it's just powerful to look at all of them at the same time, because how do I determine what that pool should be, or should I adjust it? Being able to look at those things in aggregate and also see over time how the interaction between each of them is really powerful in here. And this is great for customers to be able to take a look at this and look at spanning all of these different tenants that they've got within there. This is great.
Okay. I think.
What if they have hundreds or thousands of tenants in here? Do we run out of colors in the graph here?
So I think log analytics can get pretty noisy at the per second level. So it's shown here just because you want to really show the granularity of like how the patterns are different. I think at scale, I actually do want to show some at scale workbooks that customers can use to kind of zoom out a bit over their entire fleet and get a feel for what their request unit consumption is looking like. Happy to switch over and show that now, since that was the next topic.
Yeah, here,
sure.
Let me have you. Let me move you back over to you, Deb. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so in addition to the pooling capability, we've also added some new monitoring capabilities, both for near real-time live site kind of scenarios and more long-term historical grain analysis. So let's start with the more near real-time metrics first. So all of these metrics here come out of the box under my Insights tab here. And what I can do is I can quickly get a glance at what is happening inside my fleet in my fleet spaces. So for example, if I filter to my enterprise fleet space, I know I have 10 accounts because we just saw that in the demo. They all happen to be in East US. And I can even filter to individual accounts if I want to. I think the two most helpful things in this view are, one, I can get some at scale recommendations that aggregate over both my Azure Monitor alerts as well as my Azure Advisor recommendations. So for example, for this one, we see we should be using private link, which is always a good recommendation. And you can see this is true for all of the accounts here, which you should go fix that. If I had alerts, they would show here as well. Then I can also see at a glance overview of at the Cosmos DB account level. So if you remember, each one of these represents one customer that I'm hosting their data for. I can get a timeline of their request unit consumption, of the requests. If I have throttled requests as well, I could have a percentage here showed up. Nothing here is hitting any 429s. But if I saw, for example, let's say this enterprise customer 2, which seemed to have the most request volume, probably that's where Praful was running the demo earlier, how let's say a 3% rate of 429s, that would be something that then I could triage easily, hone in on count number 2, and then further troubleshoot. So this is also a really nice way to do a first round triage of what kind of issues I have in my workload. I can also see things at scale like the number of documents, data usage, index usage in this view as well.
Can I take this kind of data? So let's just assume, so as an ISV, of course, billing matters, right? Like we all work for Microsoft. Yeah. Billing matters. Does the information, not necessarily here, but the information that's captured and rendered as part of this thing, can this be used to help kind of with billing, or to maybe create custom recommendations like, hey, you should scale up and charge this tenant, a little extra here, like, that one tenant that's kind of got 3 million or some of their other documents in there, and they're a little low on the throughput. Yeah,
that's a really great observation. And we've actually seen in the past couple of years a rise, maybe even more so now than ever, in the desire to do those kinds of at scale, longer term analyses to just make sure that you're in optimized, good performance state. Typically, when you want to look at billing data, looking at like the 5-minute grain is not super valuable. Usually at the hour or even daily grain is sufficient. So to that end, we have another offering that is another optional feature in Fleet called Fleet Analytics, which is going to give you exactly that view of your, let's just call this your traffic patterns, right? Request unit, requests for throttles, status codes, etc., storage index over a longer period of time. combined with your billing data also at the hourly grain. So it's very easy to join and see, okay, here's my most expensive resource. Why is it expensive? Is it storage? Is it throughput? Is it something else? How do I, and as like maybe a FinOps persona, I can then work with my various dev teams to optimize that. So this is the upcoming fleet analytics feature, which is still not broadly available yet in preview, but will be available later this summer. But I can show you a quick sneak peek of how you might use this data to fulfill those scenarios. All right, so with Fleet Analytics, you'll be able to send your data either to a Fabric workspace or a storage account of your choice. The data is in a Parquet format, so it's ready for any analytics that you might want to do at it. Any client you want to put on top, like Databricks, Spark is common. Fabric is also another popular one. So I'll show you the like some of the experiences that you'll get, and then I'll show you the raw data as well for those power users who want to like write all their own queries. So we have a hourly aggregated version of those metrics, including request count, request units, storage, index, etc. So here I've just created a out-of-the-box dashboard that we'll be shipping as well. That takes every single resource ID, which in this case would be, this is just the GUID that represents the Cosmos DB account name. But in your data, this is anonymized for our demo, but in your data, you'll have your Cosmos DB account name here. You can see who is the account or the customer with the largest volume of request units consumed, storage over time as well, or even split by customer. For those power users who really want to see the raw data, we have a bunch of tables here. The most salient ones are the fact request hourly, which is going to give you, imagine that chart, but now aggregated at 1 hour. So for every one of your collections inside your fleet, we'll have that. First, if you have 100 collections in your fleet, they'll all be here. What kind of operation you're doing, the status code, the number of requests of that type, the number of request units consumed, and more. And we also have another table that has the billing data as well. So it'll tell you which billing meters were billed for that hour. So putting this all together, I've written a sample query here. By the way, we will be publishing sample queries as well for the most common scenarios we've seen. So here's one very common scenario, which is you want to optimize your cost, right? You want to look over the last 3 months. What are some inefficiencies that I could be improving on? So here we've written a query that joins and combines the storage data, so index plus data, as well as from the billing data, what is my cost for a specific collection. So this is just basic some joining of the two tables that we have, filter timestamp in the last 90 days, so last 3 months. And here I've just written a quick select filter to find the ones where the collection cost more than $100 in the past 90 days, but have 0 GB of storage. And in a database, if you have 0 GB of storage, like, why do you even have this?
Why are you using it? It's a database.
Yeah, especially for 90 days, right? Maybe like a week you could like see it, but
sure, okay. So developers a bit lazy maybe, but for 3 months, that's
yeah. So raises some questions. At that point, you can see, okay, here's the database accounts. Here's how much they cost. Here's the DB and container names. Maybe I go follow up with the teams that own these to see what's going on. So we have all sorts of data here. Other scenarios we can support are things like what are my idle containers, right? Imagine I did this, but I have 0 requests. I can look at things like when did I last rotate my keys at the account level, slightly different pivot, more security than cost. But with the data, the power's in your hands. They're basically to analyze and slice however you want, and that's available at the fleet level.
And this is in Fabric, so people want to go create Power BIs and do visualizations. They want to take this stuff from the lake, and I mean, they could seriously, they could build ML models and train ML models over this data and go nuts if they wanted to. There's really, the sky's the limit once you get this stuff into Fabric, it seems.
Definitely.
And so would they do billing from this stuff, or would they take the bill they get from us and then take that and use that? If they were doing billing like downstream for their customers and stuff, could they use this data? I mean, it looks like I see the data.
It can help with attribution. So this doesn't replace their invoice. It's just another, like it should be the same values and data as the invoice you eventually get.
Yeah.
I think one benefit here is I think most invoices give you at the daily level. This we can actually give you a bit more real time at the hourly level. Now it is delayed by several hours, so it's not like hours over immediately. But typically for these exercises, that's fine.
Billing's never real time anyway, right? So who cares? It's right. Bills always come in arrears, so it's.
But if you wanted to do some kind of attribution, like let's say you have like 3 different business units and they all use Cosmos DB, and I want to map some internal cogs for each one. One proxy metric could be traffic volume, like request units, right? Like if I spent $300 across 3 business units, but business unit 1 consumed 80% of the request units, right? I can probably assign most of my cogs to that business unit. So this makes it easy to summarize at scale across all of the fleets that you have, what your traffic patterns look like.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I love. I love. That's always, and you tee this up beautifully at the beginning. Like the big complaint from our ISV customers is, I want all the knobs and dials, but I can't manage thousands and thousands of accounts. And even worse, I can't monitor that many accounts either. But funneling that data in Fabric applies basically the power of analytics engines on top of this stuff. And like you said, you can write queries, and I'm glad you guys are creating kind of common queries people are going to use. This will help really get them started on this. But this is super powerful, just beyond what you guys have done with the fleets management and the throughput pooling. This stuff right here on the end, the monitoring and the analytics on this stuff, I think is just as powerful as anything else we've created for our ISV customers. So super cool.
That's awesome to hear that.
Anything else? More stuff?
So Fleet Analytics will be available later this summer. So we'd love to have Steph back on your show to do a even deeper dive into.
Oh, heck yeah. Just try to stop me. You're definitely coming back. So
I guess last thing to share is, so we are currently in preview. Everything that was shown related to creating the fleet, adding accounts, as well as using the pooling features are now available in preview. So just go to the preview features tab, find fleet, and register your subscription. You only need to register the subscription where you plan to create the fleet. So if you need to add, let's say, accounts from 10 different subscriptions, you don't need to register those. It doesn't matter. Just register the subscription where you plan to create the fleet.
Got it. How do I add? We missed at the beginning. How do I add from different subscriptions? I guess if I have visibility into the subscriptions, they should just show up in there, right? Just like Praful, you were showing at the beginning. I just go collect different subscriptions and then just add in those accounts in there. Or based upon the filters I've got, they're already in there anyway. Then I could just go and filter and add in the accounts from the different subscriptions.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I can share. I have way too many subscriptions.
Yeah. All of us do.
There's like a bunch.
The hard part is filtering out all the garbage I don't want to see. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Easy enough. And then I put up a link to your docs in there as well. So this also, after they get registered for the preview in there, is that immediate, or do they have to wait to get themselves activated for the preview, or is that just auto approved through there?
We typically approve within a few business days.
Okay, so go ahead and do it, and then check back in a few days, and if not, just wait another day. It should be there, and then people can go ahead and get started. Use the docs, of course, within there as well. Yeah. Anything else you want to show?
Yeah, send us your feedback. We're still in the preview stages, so a lot of the things or the current limitations are all ones we're working on. If you have feedback on any parts of the experience, please send them our way. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. They can reach out to me if they want. I'm MJ Brown or DECH for Deb there, or you can hit us up on Twitter. We're at Azure Cosmos DB. Just whatever works for you. Reach out to one of us, and we'll make sure to take in your feedback on fleets. So cool. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is very cool, you folks. I love this feature, and I know this solves a really huge kind of pain point for customers. ISVs are huge lovers of Cosmos. They're our biggest customers are ISVs and SaaS ISVs, and I think this really is something they I think are loving from us as well, being able to do it and build these multi-tenant SaaS applications for their customers on Azure and be able to, configure and manage, monitor, and do this throughput sharing at scale using Cosmos. So fantastic stuff, you folks. Really excited. I'm absolutely going to invite you back, Deb and Praful, to talk about analytics, maybe sometime this fall, or does that sound good? Or next year, either, whatever works for you guys. We'll have you back, and then yeah, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see. This will be very, very cool. So, okay, well, that's it for this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed it, and that's it for us. Thank you, Deborah, for coming, and Praful, thank you very, very much for coming and showing us all the Cosmos DB Fleet stuff. And that's it for this week, folks. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.